Hi, I'm Alec from EasierHabits.com, and I coach work-from-home dads in lifestyle design, how to create your ideal life, one that you're proud to model for and share with your kids. So this weekend, I sat down at my computer, and every weekend I do a weekly review. And as I sat down, half of my brain was already thinking about goals that I could make for this week and wanted to dive in. And the other half just wanted to check out YouTube or see what's happening on Facebook or just play a game or something. And as I sat down at the computer, normally this is a struggle of willpower, of a battle where I'm thinking, this is what I should do, but this is what I want to do, and I'm trying to decide. But I just sat down and kind of was aware of what was happening inside my head, a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of meditation almost, to see like, wait, what kinds of thoughts were coming towards me? And a lot of times I phrase this conflict, or I frame this conflict as there's a part of me that knows what it should do, and there's a part of me that wants to do something else, and I have to exercise discipline to engage what I should do as opposed to what I want to do or what's easiest now. But when I thought about it, I realized it's not just that I want to play games, because there's a part of me that is already thinking about goals. There's a part of me that wants to get down into the goals, plan for next week, make the next week awesome. So it's not that I want one or the other. And what I started to realize as I thought about it was maybe this wasn't a problem of discipline or what I should do versus what I want to do. This is my brain not knowing what to do right now. So I've already talked a little bit about habits in my vlog. Habits are a simple pattern of cue, activity, and reward. And if that is repeated often enough, our brain begins to associate the reward with a cue so strongly that the activity becomes automatic. Thinking about this as I was observing my confused state, half my brain wanting one thing, half of it wanting another thing, I realized one of my problems is because I use my computer for everything. Sitting down at my computer is not a strong cue, right? I might sit down on my computer because I want to watch a movie. Might sit down at my computer because I want to chat with friends. I might sit down at my computer because I want to get work done, or I might sit down because I want to reflect and do some journal writing and goal setting. An excellent book about habits is Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit. And there's one story out of all of that that especially stands out to me, which is about a woman who was a compulsive gambler. Gambling is designed to be a powerful habit, to have strong cues, to get you engaged in that activity and have big rewards, to make it seem like you're always close to the next big reward. And even though the reward doesn't happen every time you put some money in the slot machine or play blackjack or whatever, it happens often enough that it keeps you hooked. In fact, sometimes that can be more addictive for people than having a regular reward. And so, for example, slot machines are actually programmed to have lots of near misses to make it seem like you're just so close to the next jackpot. And the interesting thing is, basically, if you study the brain activity of a gambler, a lot of it shuts down and their behavior does become automatic. And the experience of this addicted gambler was essentially having zero willpower over what activity she took when she was in a casino. And this developed over time, but eventually she just couldn't control herself. And possibly medically, that might have been true, that her brain was not capable of restraining, because all of the things that you think about to try and create self-control weren't engaging because the behavior was now automatic. However, there was a point in her story where she was able to gain control, which was actually, I think, literally moving away from, farther away from the casino, so it was harder for her to get there, and telling them to stop calling and isolating herself. So as long as she wasn't in the gambling environment, she could prevent that behavior. However, eventually she thought, it's been a long time, maybe I have self-control. She walked into a casino and was sucked right back into that and racked up huge amounts of life-destroying debt. Now, the interesting thing here for me the takeaway was that habits are environmental. And so sometimes your control over what it is you do or don't do is really about the environment or the cues you put around yourself, right? The battle is not to exercise willpower against a habit that is already formed in a certain environment. Sometimes you win the battle by changing your environment or changing the cues so you don't have to struggle in the first place. Now, how can this help you be more productive? Well, especially as we move toward an economy of working from home where we do everything on our computers. So maybe once upon a time you went into an office to work and you only used your computer for recreation. Now you're trying to work and play on your computer. And that confuses your brain. There's no clear clue or cue for what your brain is supposed to do next when you sit down at the computer, and it becomes a struggle. And so I realized in my situation, I need to be a little bit more thoughtful of how I could use my computer. What sort of cues could I give to tell my brain I was serious about working or that I intended to play? Because you don't have to work all the time. In fact, it's not healthy to work all the time. It's good to have some forms of recreation. So one thing I can do to help separate my work or my journal reflection from my play is simply scheduling, right? If I'm used to engaging in my weekly planning and reflection section at the same time every week, it can become more automatic. That's how it is with my daily planning during the week. I know that the first thing I do after dropping off my kids is sit down at the computer and then write out some things I'm grateful for and start to plan my day. I don't have that on the weekend. I don't have the idea that the first thing I do when I get up is do my weekly review. And so that could be one strong, clear signal. Hey, brain, it's time to review now. And if I practice that enough, that can help me get to the point where the first thing I do when I sit down at the computer Saturday morning is open up my reflection tab. Another thing I can do to make sure my brain is in productivity mode when I sit down at a computer is create some kind of ritual. For example, before I go into doing my journal app every week, I could do a quick brainstorm on a notepad, or I can take a 5-minute meditation, or even just a 1-minute meditation. It doesn't have to be anything complex or difficult, but if I do one particular action before sitting down and reflecting, then I can create that habit. Another thing I could do is change the environment on my computer itself. Maybe I add some apps that block websites, other websites that can open up to remove temptation, or I have different desktops that views that look different, and one associates one I associate with work and one I associate with playing around or relaxing. And of course, another thing I can do is simply to completely change my environment and make my computer more mobile. So I have an office and I will only work there. If I want to play, I have to take my laptop into the living room or something like that so that I am literally in a different environment. The last thing I could do to help my brain be more productive, of course, is to make sure I pay attention to the reward part of the habit. And this is something we really skip. A lot of times when people think they're forming habits, really they're forming associations. They're forming an association between a cue and an activity, but they're not actually rewarding the activity in a way that really wires your brain to make the activity automatic. So creating the association does make things easier, and maybe somewhat naturally there will be some satisfaction in having gotten something productive done that will help reinforce the habit. But especially if you don't feel a lot of satisfaction in whatever productive thing you want to do, then you're going to have to think about what kind of reward you want to give yourself. And as an example for this, my family cleans for an hour every Saturday, and it is difficult. It is really difficult for my 4-year-old, but I'll admit it's even difficult for me, and I don't find cleaning that rewarding. Maybe there's a small amount of myself that likes the place looking cleaner, but the activity itself for me is not that rewarding. So one of the things I've started doing and works very successfully helps me and helps my kids is doing a dance party afterwards. So we do a really fun dance party, and I do look forward to that after cleaning dance party every week because there's a reward. I do start to associate the cleaning with a positive experience that makes it a little bit more automatic for me, although admittedly, doing anything for an hour is never going to be entirely automatic. So maybe this week, take a look at times where you struggle to be productive or get easily distracted from some task that you intend to undertake. And actually take a look at your environment. What cues are there? Are there cues that are telling you it's time to play? And how could you change them or construct new cues that you associate with being productive to help you follow through on your task, to help make that task more automatic so it doesn't take a lot of discipline. As always, if you like this video, please show it by clicking the like button, and you can also subscribe to make sure that you're getting all of my tips on how to be your best, most productive self and your best self as a parent. Until next week, make big changes, one small habit at a time.